beats Roger Federer in tonight's final. And in Speedway, Bellevue Aces take on Wolverhampton at home in the Elite League this evening.
The problem with the Halliwell Jones Stadium for Wigan is, well, we have decent food there.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Diane Oxford.
Well, for the start of the week, for a change, the weather shouldn't be too bad. There is a very small chance of showers as you go through the day, but I think for most of us, it's dry and it's fine. There'll be some pretty good spells of sunshine. The winds will be light. Unfortunately, we can't do a huge amount for the temperatures. At best, they'll peak at 18 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hiya. You all right? Good. I'm Allan Beswick, with you till 2 o'clock. Usual number, 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And, of course, you can text on 07786 206 951. And I paid £14.95. I think it was 95. Anyway, 15 quid all but a sniff to watch Amir Khan fight someone who can actually box instead of all those children he's fought in the past. Well, he has, hasn't he? He's fought a load of no-marks, comes up against one decent opponent, knocked out in the first round. How many of us thought, well, that'll learn you? And didn't I predict it? Didn't I predict it on Friday when I said, hang on a minute? His diet's going to be all over the place. It's Ramadan.
Casualty is back on BBC One.
0-0, quarter control over.
Hey, wait here for me.
The 16th, pulse at 110, GCS 3 this evening.
What hit her? A bus?
An ambulance. BP's hit the deck, she's in VF.
All right, let's shock her. Toby, get the defib. If we fail to do our jobs, then people die.
Unbreakable. Unmissable. The new series of Casualty starts Saturday night at 8:20 on BBC One.
Used to be good, that. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And you can text 07786 206 951. Tom in Harper. How are you doing, Tom?
Hello. Yeah, I just wanted to follow on from your comment about Amir Khan, really. You know, he was saying after the fight, he's made a mistake. He made one little mistake. Just wondering what that mistake was, because he didn't elaborate on it. I think was it that the fact that the guy could actually hit back this time? And
I think it was. Yeah, I think that was the mistake. Getting somebody in who frankly could give him a run for his money.
I mean, I have to say Frank Warren's one of the best promoters probably we've ever had in this country, and he has taken responsibility, although he was guided by the new trainer, I believe. But the guy, when he came over here, he oozed confidence. He looked fantastic shape, and he'd got a 90% knockout record. And against 5 of those who were previously unbeaten and were rated, I believe, as opposed to Amir Khan, where he's got a good percent of knockout, but against people like probably me, who, probably somebody's wife could knock out. But
it's perhaps a little harsh, but nonetheless accurate for that.
but I actually thought all along that they did a great PR job on Ricky Hatton, and giving him dead beats. And then when he actually fought for the world title, he fought a guy who was way past his best and was coming to the end of his career. Mentioned retirement 2 years prior to that, I believe. Yeah. But what I was a bit just confused of, I mean, I know that you mentioned something about Ramadan, and I noticed before the fight he turned to his corner to the what do they call it? The turnbuckle, where the corner meets the ropes and the stuff. And he does his praying, like most sportsmen do. Footballers tend to do it when they come on a pitch, the sign of the cross. I wonder what he's actually praying for. I mean, was he praying for an early night?
Well, he got one.
He got one. Yeah, but
I hope he got to sleep easy tonight. Yeah, I could have done with it a bit later.
Yeah, but it just puzzles me, Alan, because the other guy's probably of a religious, maybe not a Muslim, because he's not from that part of the world. I don't know, but then again, you don't have to be, do you? But
no.
But I just wonder what they pray for. I've often wondered what these footballers do this for when they come on that cross. maybe a sportsman who does that could come on maybe and tell us and enlighten us. Because I don't think he's praying for world peace, is he?
I think it's unlikely, just before a boxing match. No, I think he's... Let us give him the benefit of the doubt and let us say he's praying for both boxers to come out without any lasting injury.
Well, these prayers were answered.
Well, indeed. Well, we don't know that yet. He might have been knocked. He might be due lally by Friday. I don't know. But dear God, his career's in tatters, isn't it?
Well, the situation is, Alan, he's chinny. The boxing term is chinny. Now, you can put all the muscle on in the world. You can go to the best fighters in the world, the best trainers in the world. But eventually, if you put in against somebody who can hit back, somebody at some stage is going to catch you on the chin. Now, Amir Khan, as a nicer chap he is, he's chinny.
Nice chap. You wouldn't lend him your car, would you?
No.
So, it's not all good.
No, it's a bit dubious character then, is it?
On one occasion behind the wheel. Well, two we can think of now, but one was only speeding, dear God. All right, Tom, good on you, mate.
Thank you.
Cheers. Tom in Harper also wasted 15 quid on the fight. Works out, if I remember correctly, 50 pence a second. But you did get the two fights before, one of which... Did you see Audley Harrison as well? What a tart. What a bloody big girl's blouse. Isn't it? Patter cake, bakers, man. Well, I won in the end. You won in the end because the other bugger fell asleep. He was bored to tears. What a waste of space that beggar is. Never mind, 0161 228 2255. You don't have to talk about boxing nor even about sport. We have a text. It's from Norman in Wigan, and he says a minute's silence is going to be held before the Sunderland game for the death of the number one sport in Wigan. That of course, is because Wigan cannot play their home game on Friday, Wigan Warriors, because Wigan Athletic are playing against Sunderland. So football knocks Wigan Rugby Club off the stage in Wigan. And that is a moment of history to be, enjoyed if you're a Warrington fan. And let's face it, as a Warrington fan, we've got absolutely nothing else to enjoy. Nothing whatsoever. Jimmy Lowe's takes us to our lowest. Chris from Southport says, can we start calling him Amir Kant? Well, quite so. Alan, if you paid £15 to watch a knockout after 54 seconds, that relates to £900 an hour. It doesn't, does it? Oh, no. I've often thought you had more money than says Kevin. Is that what it... I might do the sums after. £900 an hour is what I paid, but I did only pay for 54 seconds. Dear God. No wonder I'm crabby about it. Blimey. That is outrageous. 0161 228 2255. You want to talk about anything else? A couple of people from that part of the world made themselves complete and utter prats at the weekend. Amir Khan and Ivan Lewis, the local MP, who's had a bit of trouble with his text. Yes. Had a spot of bother. He's been... And he owns up to this. It's some time ago now, and there is... Everybody's now talking about, well, how come the story came out now? And the way they're selling that story is, how come the story came out now? What are they doing? Have they sat on it all this time in order to mix a bottle for him when the Labour Party's already in the doghouse? I don't know. I'm more interested in why it didn't come out earlier from the point of view of why didn't he own up? Why didn't he tell us? The father of Tex-Pest Health Minister Ivan Lewis admitted last night that the scandal could end his son's career. Mr. Lewis, 41, bombarded a 25-year-old woman civil servant who worked in his office with suggestive phone messages. Well, his dad says Ivan's a good man. Well, that's his dad, so, let's not... that's your dad. That's your job as a dad, isn't it, to support your kids, so don't worry about that. Ivan's a good man, but apparently Susie Mason thought it was she, and frankly, she's a nice-looking lass. Susie Mason has to be moved to a different job after making a tearful complaint to her bosses. Mr. Lewis, who's separated from his wife and lives with his retired father Noel and stepmother Barbara at their detached home in Prestwich, speaking in his dressing gown. I've no idea No idea the relevance of that, other than it's a fact, apparently. Speaking in his dressing gown, Noel Lewis said, I haven't seen Ivan since Friday. He's rung me once since this has broken, but I don't know when he'll be back. He's a good man and a single man, but I don't know if his career will survive. Ivan Lewis has been sending texts to a 25-year-old woman. Now, frankly, Ivan Lewis is living apart from his wife. He is, to all intents and purposes, a single bloke. What he does with his sexual ambition is of no concern of mine. What he does between the sheets, if he does anything, I've no idea, is no concern of mine. But even if, as a 41-year-old minister, he thinks he's got a chance of copping off with a 25-year-old young woman, then good luck to the lad, say I. He's single. If she's stupid enough to go out with a 41-year-old, that's up to her. So I guess he is entitled to invite her for a drink, invite her to the theatre, invite her to a meal, invite her to anywhere he wishes. And if she says, well, no thank you, I'll get, then that's where it should end, surely. Surely. The issue isn't Ivan Lewis fancying a 25-year-old. That's nobody's business but his and the 25-year-old. And frankly, asking somebody out isn't a crime. But pestering somebody is. Perhaps what we need is a Lewis Asbo. That's what we need. We need Ivan Lewis on an Asbo. But whether that happens or not, do you think it matters to his job? Do you think it matters to his job? I'd be interested. I mean, he's an MP, he's a Minister for Health, he's a single bloke, and he tries to cop off with a 25-year-old. So what? But more importantly, he badgers the girl with endless texts. A barrage of text messages is how one newspaper described it. Well, what have you got to say about that? 01612282255. He could be your MP if you're in Bury, the particular part of Bury. He could be your MP. Do you care that your MP is, should we say, spending quite a lot of time of his life texting people? The rich and famous, it says in the Sun, have a knack of being caught out by dodgy text messages. Soccer hero David Beckham landed in hot water with texts to his personal assistant Rebecca Lewis. When I see you, I want to hear you groan and moan. I can't wait. That's what he said in the text. I have no idea what it meant. Aussie cricket legend Shane Warne's wife, Simone, took him back after a string of alleged affairs, but their marriage disintegrated again when he accidentally sent her a text intended for his new mistress. He always did have a bit of fun with a twisted hand, didn't he? That's how he could do all that bowling. And Craig Cooper and Becky Duff, I don't know either, married after winning a competition run by a Birmingham radio station and honeymoon in Bermuda, but their nuptials were short-lived after she found he'd sent a saucy text to a female colleague. So there you are. You say, and do you remember them winning that on a radio station? We don't do competitions, and if we did, we wouldn't give brides away. No. We just wouldn't. I don't think it's nice. It's not pleasant. 0161 228 2255. And a woman in Manchester, well, our patch anyway, Michelle Kelly, for it is she went through a puddle. She didn't step up to a muddle. That was somebody entirely different. That was Dr. Foster in Gloucester. This is actually Michelle Kelly in Blakely. She was taking a driving test. And as she drove along, she drove through a puddle on Hazel Bottom Road in Blakely. Water showered a pedestrian who was standing at a nearby bus stop. Michelle from Blakely continued on her way back to the test centre in Cheetah Mill. She said, I pulled in at the centre and the examiner said he'd failed me. He then spoke at length about the splashing. I didn't do it on purpose and didn't really think that much of it at the time, but he said it was a fault. Apparently, it constituted a traffic offence and he was treating it as a road accident. He said I should have pulled over and exchanged details with the pedestrian. The Highway Code does not specifically mention splashing pedestrians, but Rule 144 states you must not drive without reasonable consideration for other road users. And Rule 147 says be careful of and considerate towards all types of road users. So there you have it. It is against the law, and you'll pass your driving test, for splashing pedestrians. And personally, I think good. Because I frequently see motorists driving along on rainy days, and they don't give a toss. They do not give a toss. They'll splash anybody on the footpath because they don't care about them. They've not paid road task. Let the poor people drown, says the motorist. Utterly disgusting. So somebody at last has had to pay. Good. Just gone 12:20 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Mark Edwardson.
Stock markets in Europe and Asia have risen sharply in response to the US government's takeover of America's two biggest mortgage companies. Insurers say the cost of repairing the damage caused by flooding over the weekend is likely to run into tens of millions of pounds. And an elderly man from Oldham's recovering in hospital after robbers attacked him in his own home to steal just £10. Manchester's weather, a cloudy afternoon with a chance of sunshine and showers, I'm afraid. Temperatures should reach about 18 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
We're getting reports that the Snake Pass may be closed. We're not sure why. It's just reports at this stage. And in Manchester City Centre, a quick reminder that Peter Street remains closed. It's closed between Mount Street and South Mill Street because of the roadworks. If you're heading towards Deansgate from the Midland Hotel, that's the direction to watch out for, and that's where the closure is. Anything else, you can give me a call. It's 0161 244 4951. I'm Morna Merchant.
You're never more than 20 minutes away from the latest traffic through the day.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Kevin says, if David Beckham wants to hear a woman moan, he should meet my missus. Oh, I just read them out. Don't be blaming me for it. 0161 228 2255 if you've something to say. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And, of course, you can text on 07786 206 951. Alan, they have decent food at the JJB Stadium. Stung by criticism, it's all stodge. You can have the local delicacy of an Italian flatbread known as a panini. Oh, very good, Derek in Lee, we like that. Afternoon, Alan. Can Wigan not use the regional athletics stadium just this once at Sports City? I think it holds between 8,000 and 10,000 and should be available. And from Colin in Bolton, good afternoon, Alan. In addition to an issue that was quite dominant in last Friday's programme, that included comments about the Falklands and Gibraltar, there are less well-known UK colonies around the world, and after studying the atlas, I've discovered there are about 15 of them, including Bermuda, the Cayman Islands. And despite the aforementioned two being considerably larger in population than the Falklands, we never hear about them in the news or indeed in television documentaries. For this reason, may I suggest that if any of your listeners have lived in or visited these places, that they be invited to comment on what it's like to live there and how it compares with living in mainline Britain. I've got a better idea. I'll get our boss to send us out there. We'll do the programme live from Bermuda. Yeah, not until we'll wait until all hurricanes have gone. I mean, there's enough wind on this programme without adding to it by nature, dear God. But, well, there's the question. We talked about British dependencies and the rest of it, so there's the question. It's been thrown out, or invited to be commented upon by our texter in the form of Colin in Bolton. Well, there it is. Have you ever been to Bermuda? And, yeah, I know, the triangle and all that. I don't believe all that rubbish. But have you ever been to Bermuda? And if you have, what was it like? Have you ever been to the Cayman Islands, which presumably is full of small crocodiles? Anyway, if you have, let us know. Or any of the other protectorates and colonies and all the rest of it. Yeah, we might as well do it. There's that other one, isn't there? Way, way down south, where Captain Bligh was marooned from the mutiny on the Bounty, or following the mutiny on the Bounty. That place, where they all sleep with each other's children, I think it goes. Anyway, well, that's what was alleged. I read it, same as you did, and was prepared to believe it. Terry says, reference the boxing, he wouldn't have had the time for a minute's silence, would he? Oh, very good, yes, no, he wouldn't. You're right. His biggest mistake was getting out of bed on Saturday morning. That's because Amir Khan said I only made one mistake. Yeah. And could you tell me how Audley Harrison went on? Yeah, I think he won but only because his opponent dozed off. Because it was a bit like that. Yeah, very silly. Anyway, 01612282255, and Terry wants to know if they can borrow the Halliwell Jones Stadium for his team, given that, and this seems a little harsh, given that Warrington won't be needing it. Because we certainly won't need it in the first round, and we won't be in the second round, So I guess he's right in that respect, isn't he? Oh, dear. Sport-wise, it's been a terrible weekend. But I did go and see the Spider. I said I was, and I went to Liverpool to see the Spider. You know, the giant, magnificent Spider. Well, I went and saw that, and it was all right. It was good. I criticise it not. To say it was all right, it's a bit harsh. It was very good. It didn't work on one occasion. It was supposed to do some at 11:30 on Saturday morning, but it never bothered. So I schlepped all the way over to Liverpool, and then I had time to kill. And I went to Liverpool. Is it called Liverpool 1? The so-called big shopping centre. And I went there because I was in the vicinity, and I thought, well, I'll go and have a look at it. Frankly, waste of time. Complete and utter waste of time, just a few shops. So I ended up at the Tate Gallery, where I saw some Picassos and a Rodin. A Rodin, that's a sculpture thing in white alabaster, I suppose, marble. Went and saw that, and I saw, and it's absolutely fantastic. I've seen photographs of it before, but I've never seen it for real, and it's at the Tate in Liverpool. Do they call it the Northern Tate? I think they might. Anyway, the Tate in Liverpool. And they've got Giacometti's, or Giacometti if you like, but Giacometti's the correct pronunciation, I'm told, but the Giacometti statue of a man pointing. Thinnest bloke you've ever seen. And it's absolutely fabulous. It really is. I mean, if you get the chance, if you're anywhere near Liverpool, and it's hard to know why you'd go there, but if you're anywhere near there. Well, no, it's not a central place, is it, like Manchester? You go to Liverpool, it's because you're going to Liverpool. You don't go to Liverpool to go to somewhere else, unless you go to the airport. Anyway, if you're in Liverpool, have a shufty. Have a little look, because the Giacometti sculpture is worth the journey alone. And there's a couple of other excellent things. There's some naff stuff as well, because a lot of it's modern. A lot of modern stuff is naff. Helen in Ratcliffe says, "Hi, Alan. The MP should go. He's doing nothing for Radcliffe." Well, that's fine. If you think he's not up to the job politically, that's fine if you think he should go, and you'll have the opportunity to express that view through the ballot within the next couple of years. So, you know, vote according to that. I was more interested in not how's he doing as an MP, but do you think MPs and other public office holders should be forced out of their jobs for being utterly crass? For being, I think the old-fashioned word for him would have been a bore. And I don't mean a bore like, you know, somebody droning on and on and on, but a bore in the sense of behaving in a boorish manner. And pestering a 25-year-old, we're not talking about a child here, she's a grown woman, but pestering a 25-year-old, when does an MP, or anybody else for that matter, not understand the word no? You ask, that's perfectly legitimate, it's not sexual prejudice or anything to say to a member of the opposite gender, do you fancy it? Even to say to somebody of the same gender, if you're that way and it turns out they're not, do you fancy it? Perfectly acceptable, even if the age differences are massive, perfectly acceptable. But it's after the no, isn't it? It wants to say, look, I'm not interested, or they don't reply, or whatever. To do it a second time, and then a third and a fourth, and then to turn it into what is known as a barrage of pestering texts that made the woman feel uncomfortable in her workplace. Well, that behaviour is totally and utterly unacceptable behaviour. Now, OK, what do we do then? Well, do we sack the man? Does the man get removed from office or whatever, or does he just get to apologise and move on? Well, at the moment, it looks like he gets to apologise and move on. What I'm asking is, should he? Should he? 0161 228 2255. You can talk about that. You can talk about anything, of course. There's a cracking story today. The way we're going to save the world from global warming and all the rest of it is dead easy. All we've got to do is all go vegetarian. Oh, yes. Mind you, it's a vegetarian that's telling us that, but it would be, wouldn't it? Otherwise, he or she would be deemed to be somewhat hypocritical. But that's save the world, go meat-free, just for 1 day a week. 1 day a week. The livestock industry accounts for 21% of the greenhouse gases produced by humans. That's more than the petrol business. Yeah. The livestock business costs more global pollution, I won't say global warming because I'm not yet convinced, but more global pollution than does the petrochemical industry. Extraordinary. Producing a pound of beef creates the same amount of greenhouse gas as driving 77 miles. 77 miles. By 2050, world consumption of meat will be 456 million tonnes, which is double that of 2001. Yeah. A cow produces 220 pounds of methane annually, the equivalent in the greenhouse gases of driving 7,800 miles. It requires 7 pounds of grain to produce 1 pound of beef, and Britain eats 1 million tonnes of beef a year, 1.3 million tonnes of pork, and 1.8 million tonnes of poultry. If you want to save the world, drive your car anywhere you like, but give up meat. Ali in Chorlton. Hi, Ali.
Hello, Alan.
Hello, Ali.
Yeah.
What can we do for you?
Well, I'm not happy the way you are saying about Amir Khan.
Why are you not happy?
You know why? Any boxer can be defeated.
Yeah.
I mean, the way you are presenting, you are making more fun of him.
I am, yes.
Which is no good.
Well, getting beat in the first round isn't all that good either.
Well, a top boxer, even in heavyweight, even lot of boxers were beaten in first round, not even Amir Khan, isn't it?
Yes, it is. A lot of boxers have been beaten in the first round, but not many good ones.
Well, he has given you good fights also, has he?
Well, he has, but he's only fought people who were scared of my mum.
Well, you should encourage him to become a stronger boxer in future.
Well, I'm quite happy to encourage him to become a stronger boxer in the future.
Yeah.
But I've been encouraging him to become a strong boxer up till now, and all he's given me are matches against people who are frankly at the end of their career and rubbish, and the first time he fights someone who can actually hit him back, we find out that he's a paper tiger.
You know, this is an English phrase. I mean, you always learn from your mistakes, isn't it?
It is indeed an English phrase, and I do hope he does learn from his mistakes. But his mistake...
That's what we say about him.
But his mistake at the moment appears to have becoming a boxer.
I hope...
Because he's not up to it.
I hope he won't disappoint us in the future, but he will come a stronger man in the future, I'll tell you.
Well, I do hope so, but how are we going to find out? Because they sure as heck aren't going to give him someone as good as the bloke that's just beat him to fight, are they? He's going to go back to fighting nobodies.
You will find him in his next fight.
OK. Well, do you think he's any good?
Well, he's a very good...
Now,
he's a very good man. He's doing a lot of charity work.
No.
He's just a lad.
Whoa. I'm not bothered about...
He's just a young lad.
No, Ali, I'm not bothered about his charity work and all the rest of it. I'm not bothered about his personality. If we're going to have an argument about his personality...
Well, he's still learning.
Well, of course he's still learning. He's still learning to drive, and he's not much good at that either.
He's only a baby chicken.
Yes, he is, but my question is, do you think he's any good at boxing?
Very good. Yes, he is.
Now,
if he's not that good, he don't win too many fights, does he?
Well, I'm asking you what you think. On the evidence we've got, he's come second in the Olympic Games, so he got beat in the Olympic Games, and then he turned professional, And he's fought people who, frankly, don't scare me. He's fought people who I'd probably take on. I might have to train for a fortnight to give him a run for the money, but I'd be happy. But as soon as he fights anyone who's any good, he loses, and loses well.
But he won't lose in future.
You think?
I guarantee you he won't lose in future.
OK. But as it stands at the moment, Ali, do you think he has proved himself to be a good boxer or a poor one?
Well, up till now, he's not too bad.
Not too bad?
Not too bad.
OK. What would you have had to done to convince you that he wasn't very good? Would he have had to last even fewer seconds? He only lasted 50 seconds. He only got hit twice.
Well, lot of big boxers in the past never survive even those minutes.
Well, you tell me a top boxer who went on to become a world champion who was knocked out in the first round. Name me one.
Well, so many in heavyweight boxing.
Just one'll do.
So many. Muhammad Ali defeated.
How many times was Muhammad Ali knocked out in the first round?
I think he never only. I think only once, but he.
No. Never's the word you're looking for, Ali. He was never knocked out in the first round.
But he never defeated.
Well,
he never defeated.
No, he was defeated. He was never knocked out in the first round. I'm asking you. It's a simple question, Ali.
You have heard about that Amir Khan's promoter, and he said it was a wrong match.
Yes, it was the wrong match.
My mistake. I take all the responsibility.
You and me agree on this. It was the wrong match.
Yeah.
But my problem is, if you want to be a world champion, and he does, at some point you've got to fight someone who's good.
Well, you can't. You can't build the whole building until the foundation is good.
Well, don't tell me. Tell the clowns. Ali, he's paying hundreds of thousands of pounds to people to make these decisions. So either he's a bad boxer and an idiot, or there's somebody making the decisions for him, which means, oh, look at that, he's still an idiot.
Well, looks like somebody's making that decision for him.
Well, he needs to sack him, along with his trainer, or better still, get another job, but ideally one that doesn't involve driving.
You are right.
All right, mate, have a good one.
Thanks.
Ali in Charlton says that Amir Khan is a good boxer and will come strong. Yeah, right. George in Odenshaw. Hiya, George.
Good afternoon, Alan.
Good afternoon,
Good
George.
afternoon. Just listening to Ali just now. He said he guarantees that Amir Khan's next fight he's going to win. I'd love to put a bet on that one.
Oh, no, he will. He'll win his next fight, George. No question. No question.
He's just fighting Mickey Mouse.
No one as good as that. He'll be fighting a blind one-legged man. He will win his next fight. That's how boxing's done, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, how can he come up with this? I mean, I watched it. I mean, I'm very surprised at the referee letting him up the first time.
Well, I must admit, so was I.
No.
I thought, that's it, that's over, and he let him have another go. He could hardly stand up.
No, you couldn't. His eyes were all over the place. His head, he was gone. You know.
You see, but we're a bit like that in this country, aren't we? You know, we're all raving about the Olympics. We came fifth in the Olympic Games, fifth for God's sake.
Well, we're doing pretty good at the Paralympics just now, mind you.
Well, yeah, but if we can do it sitting down, it's a shame they don't have sit-down boxing because he might do all right. We're good at sitting down. But the other thing in the thing at the weekend, the sport at the weekend, is this Lewis Hamilton. Neil Hamilton's a completely different idiot.
Yeah,
Lewis Hamilton, and he won the race. And then he had 15 seconds, which is 25 seconds, a penalty, levelled against him. And he's livid. But he cut a bit off. He left a bit out.
Yeah,
I could be first if I just sort of went round the corner. He left a bit out. He thought, well, I'm not going round that bit. I'll take bloody ages. I'm not stupid. So he cut across the lawn.
No, that was ludicrous, that.
Of course it was.
That was absolutely
So they say, well, if you're not going the same distance as everyone else, we're not going to give you the points.
Which is quite right, isn't it? I mean,
it's like when we used to do cross-country at school.
Yeah, who the heck is his trainer?
Extraordinary. He's probably got the same trainer as Khan.
Yeah, more than likely, Alan.
Good on you, George.
OK, Alan.
Thank you, mate. 0161 228 2255. What a great sporting weekend it has been. Ted in Moston. The British overseas territories include the British Indian Ocean Territory, Montserrat, Anguilla, the British Virgin Islands, St Helena and Ascension Island, as well as the aforementioned Bermuda and Cayman Islands. Ascension Island is probably the most interesting because it is legally a ship. Ascension is several thousand miles from the nearest mainland in Angola, so it's governed by the Admiralty. These territories are all important to the economy and to the armed forces. Anyone who wishes to give away any of our territories should ask Spain whether they want to give up their enclaves in Morocco and whether America wants to give up Guam, Hawaii, Puerto Rico and the American Virgin Islands. Well, Ted, when I've asked them do they want to, they'll probably say no. But when I ask me, should they, I will probably say yes. 0161 228 2255, just gone 20 to 1. BBC Radio Manchester news headlines. Mark Edwardson.
The government's rejected demands for strict limits on the number of workers from outside the European Economic Area allowed to settle in Britain. The UK's biggest building society, the Nationwide's, completed a deal to merge with two smaller loss-making rivals, including the Cheshire. And insurers say damage caused by the weekend's flooding will run into tens of millions of pounds, while the Environment Agency is warning that with rain forecast, more floods are likely in the coming days. Manchester's weather, well, probably no floods today, but you can expect some showers. There'll be brighter spells too, highs of 18 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
In the High Peak area, the Snake Pass is closed because of resurfacing. It's on the Sheffield side, though. It's about 12 miles from Glossop on the Sheffield side of the Snake Inn. And it's all following a landslide, which actually happened on Wednesday. And it was actually January time. So this is what's happening at the moment. They're resurfacing the road. It's going to open eventually with some temporary lights. But that's what's happening at the moment. And also in Manchester, in the city centre, overall not doing too badly. But Peter Street is closed. And that's from the Midland Hotel, heading in the direction of Deansgate. Anything else you spot, give me a call. You can do that on the usual number. It's 0161 244 4951. I'm Warner Merchant.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Good afternoon. Well, time is ticking and Wigan Warriors are looking for an alternative venue for Friday's Super League playoff against Bradford. The JJB Stadium is, of course, unavailable due to Wigan Athletics' game with Sunderland. Well, the Warriors are in talks over using the Stobart Stadium in Widnes or Warrington's Halliwell Jones instead. The Rugby Football League say they can't switch the date of the game due to competition integrity issues. We've spoken to the club. They say a decision is expected this lunchtime. Well, BBC Radio Manchester's Rugby League man Trevor Hunt joins me now. Trev, when I first saw this, I just couldn't believe that they've got themselves in this situation. I mean, you know, they knew that it would come to this if they got as far. I know they're delighted to get as far as they have done, but to get themselves in this situation, it's just incredible.
Well, what's the modern parlance? Contingency plans. The contingency should have been, Luke, this is the scenario. If we manage a point or even beat St Helens, and let's face it, that's what they're going there to do, and everybody else loses their games or the results come out in the sequence they have, then we could have a home tie. They should have been talking about this a good few weeks ago. Ambition is what it's all about. And to some degree, it almost smacks a little bit that the club have resigns themselves to actually a trip to Catalan or to Warrington and never even thought of the prospect of a possible home tie.
Is it just another example of a complete lack of organisation in the sport? I know that's strong stuff, but I mean, it is, isn't it?
Well, I don't think within the sport even in that respect, because it is down to Wigan. They're the one who've worked hard enough to get themselves the home tie. The rules of the competition are quite clear. The game is televised on Friday night, so that's why it can't be switched, and there's television schedules and big money that's gone into that. And with regard to switching it to Bradford Bulls, well, just imagine what would be said by Warrington if suddenly they found that Bradford Bulls were being given home advantage, albeit they didn't finish in the position that they should have warranted it. Who's not been talking here? Well, it's Wigan Athletic and Wigan Warriors, and probably the Warriors more than anything else. Those two are the ones who should have got themselves together and worked it all out long before this.
Trev, there's a lot of Warriors fans who clearly aren't happy. I mean, even if they are going to play at Stobart or at Halliwell Jones, no home advantage for them. It's crazy.
Well, it is, and I was at the supporters do on Saturday night when the fans were euphoric because they suddenly started getting the results in and realised they'd got a home tie. As I said, when they initially thought they'd be going to Warrington or even Bradford or, in fact, heading off somewhere else a little bit earlier on that week. It's particularly upsetting for them. They'll feel now they've given away the home advantage, everything they worked for. It'll be a neutral venue, and that in itself will give Bradford some incentive for victory. It's
an issue, of course, with Wigan Athletic that they can't play on the Friday night, because, I mean, Sale do it, Sale Sharks in the Rugby Union with Stockport playing on the Saturday, but that's an issue with Athletic, isn't it?
Well, it is, and I think that's something to do with the Premiership as well. You can understand Wigan Athletic. They've got a vital game against Sunderland, 24 hours, or even less it would be, wouldn't it, if Wigan were to play Friday night? They don't want the pitch churning up, although I've watched the game there as long as the two sides have been cohabiting, if you like, and I've never really seen damage to the pitch from one code or one sport to the other. It's a pity it can't be resolved. Let's hope something good comes out of the news when it is released very shortly indeed.
Thanks a lot, Trevor. That's BBC Radio Manchester's Rugby League man, Trevor Hunt. And as Trevor said, and as I mentioned before, a decision is expected this lunchtime as to where Wigan Warriors will play Friday's Super League playoff clash against Bradford. Well, Manchester United defender Rio Ferdinand is having a fitness test today ahead of England's World Cup qualifier with Croatia on Wednesday. Ferdinand has a neck problem, of course, sat out of England's qualifier with Andorra. After completing his long-awaited transfer to Manchester United last week, Dimitar Berbatov says he never even considered joining Manchester City. The Bulgarian striker is expected to make his debut against Liverpool on Saturday, and he's looking forward to working with his new manager.
I'm very impressed with Sir Alex, and I'm looking forward to working with him. And, you know, looking forward to speak with him again and to see what he's going to ask from me in the games. And I hope that I can do a good job for him.
Well, it's going to be a classic, but Liverpool captain Steven Gerrard will miss Saturday's game with United at Anfield. Gerrard is, of course, still recovering from groin surgery. West Ham will interview former Danish international Michael Laudrup today about their vacant managerial position. Oldham manager John Sheridan is happy with his side's start to the season. The Latics are top of League One, unbeaten in 5 games. All the talk is of promotion at Boundary Park, but Sheridan's not getting carried away.
It's something now we've got to build on, we've got to continue and got consistency. That's one of the things we need to get in this division. If you get consistency in your game and your players perform better week in, week out, I think you'll do well in this division. Most important thing is that, I mean, it's my 3rd year. The 2 previous we didn't get off to the best starts, and we did pick up. So we've got to a good start, and hopefully we can continue that.
In tennis, Andy Murray will become the first British man to win the US Open title at Flushing Meadows since Fred Perry in 1936 if he beats Roger Federer in tonight's final. This is how the British number one's been preparing.
Been playing Scrabble in my spare time, and just trying to relax, and I'm sure I'll get the chance to see it all at the end of the tournament, but just got to try and stay focused. I got one more match to try and win, and that was all I wanted to do at the start of the tournament.
Well, in Formula One, McLaren have said they intend to fight the punishment that stripped Lewis Hamilton of his Belgian Grand Prix win. Stewards hit Hamilton with a 25-second penalty, demoting him to 3rd place for cutting a chicane as he contested the lead with Ferrari's Kimi Räikkönen. Well, McLaren have 7 days to decide whether to go ahead with the appeal. If they do, it would be formally lodged by the UK's National Sporting Authority, the Motorsports Association, with F1's governing body, the FIA. At the Paralympics in Beijing, Salford's Barney Storey and partner Anthony Capp won Great Britain's 5th gold medal at the Games in the 1-kilometre time trial with a new world record in the cycling. Teenager Eleanor Simmons has become Britain's youngest ever Paralympic gold medalist by winning the 100-metre freestyle final. The 13-year-old from Birmingham clocked a time of 1 minute 18.75 seconds to clinch Britain's 2nd swimming gold. And finally, in Speedway, Bellevue Aces take on Wolverhampton at home in the Elite League this evening.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
Well, the Rains dominated Lancashire's season. They're in desperate need of a win in the Pro 40. They take on Nottinghamshire Outlaws at Trent Bridge on Wednesday. Live reports right here from 5.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Amir Khan's ex-trainer, Oliver Harrison, must be laughing his head off, says one of our texters. After sacking him before this fight, Khan said the new trainer had smartened up his defence. Oh dear. And I don't quite get this one, but never mind. Khan has an appointment with Safe Style this morning to get his jaw fixed. Don't quite get that. Khan should change his name to Can't. We've done that. That's DJ in Oldham. Alan, I've been to Bermuda twice, says Martin in Bolton. I just had to go back. It's the cleanest place I've ever been. People are polite and helpful and hold old-fashioned values, like giving up your seats on a bus. They don't drop litter, and there's little crime. I love the place, says Martin in Bolton. Neil in Bevington. Alan, would you like to come out to dinner? Who's paying? And a new menu at the JJB, no more eggs. That's Nigel and Ashton in Makerfield. Sure, that means something. And everybody's telling me we came 4th, not 5th in the Olympic table, behind China, America and Russia. That's Dave from Salford, so thank you for that. But we still only won things that you can do sat down. Rashid in Rusholme, hiya.
Hello, you all right, mate?
Not bad at all.
Hi, mate. First call, I love the show.
Thank you.
All about Amir Khan, I'm quite upset by the response of people. At the end of the day, it's a lucky punch.
Or two of them, as it happens.
Well, yeah. The first one, he was gone. That was it. You know, it's like anything. I mean, I watched a lot of this cage fighting, and you know, the guy got beat at the weekend as well on Saturday. Much favoured ex-champ, and he got dropped with first punch. But the thing is with Amir, I think what it is a lot of people see him because he's obviously Asian like myself, and we're basically he's real celebrity within the Asian world. You know, Bollywood, everything, and we're really sort of upset by him, getting beat. So I'm just a bit upset with some of the comments regarding people just taking a mick. He's doing his job at the end of the day.
He's doing his job. He is doing his job, but he's doing it badly.
No, I mean that was just a lucky punch.
Look, boxing. There is always, I agree with you, there is always the opportunity for a lucky punch.
The puncher's chance, yeah.
So how come all the top boxers manage to avoid lucky punches in the first round? How does that happen, do you think?
They've just been lucky. One thing I would say is Lennox Lewis had got dropped a couple of times in the first couple of rounds, and he obviously went on to be one of the best champions
Remember
ever.
the question. You make your own luck in boxing. There's only two of you in there, apart from the referee, who's not really involved in the fighting as such. There's only two of you in there. If you are there and going to get dropped by, as you describe it, a lucky punch, then you have to box accordingly. And frankly, from what I've seen of Khan, and I think he's a good fighter, he can lay it on, but as soon as somebody hits him, he falls over. And the evidence is in the past. Even the no marks he's fought. Now, the bloke that beat him on Saturday, that's a good fighter. But if Amir Khan wants to be a world champion, they're the blokes that he's got to beat, not get beaten by.
See, one of the things. I mean, it's a bit of a pun, this, but what I'd say is it's like literally knocking a man as he's down, But one thing I would like to talk about as well, obviously the Amir thing we'll disagree on, is the Andy Murray.
Oh, yes.
I actually think he's an absolute disgrace. Some of the I'm obviously Muslim, but I support England and everything else. But he basically, he completely turns his back on sort of Great Britain. Obviously he's Scottish, but the way he is, he's very arrogant. And from what I've heard from the comments around the tennis circuit, on Sky, and that he's family and that's supposed to be horrendous, and the sort of pure disregard for people.
Well, I mean, that's fine. He's entitled to that. He's entitled. I don't care. All I'm interested in is I want sports people to entertain us. That's it. They're in the entertainment business. I want comedians to make me laugh. I want quality actors to make me think about crying. I want poets to make me think about life. I want boxers to entertain me, rugby players to entertain me. It'd be hard for a tennis player to entertain me, but he's in the entertainment business. He's not out there looking for love and cuddles from the nation.
No, I just think his arrogance, regarding like the way he is with people and that, he's downright rude. I mean, he's just won the biggest game of his life, beating the world number one, and he basically just whatever, and these people, like hundreds of thousands of people watching, supporting the guy, and I believe he won't even sign autographs for people or anything. These people who come supporting him.
Why should he?
Well, they pay his wages. If they did pay his wages, he wouldn't be in these tournaments, would he?
The answer to that is those people who go and pay good money and he doesn't sign their autograph should not go again, if that's what it's about.
No, exactly.
They go to watch tennis. They saw the match. Why should he stand round writing his name, which is a stupid thing to do anyway?
No, I just mean, a bit of a appreciation. They come to see him,
and they saw him. They came to see him play tennis, and they did. They saw him play the best he has ever played.
I mean, one thing I'd say, he's more to do with, he sounds daft, but his appearance. You look at Rafa Nadal, and he's a good-looking boy. He's got his gear on, he looks good, but you look at Murray, it looks like he's just come from bloody getting his gyro or something. Some of the gear he wears is a disgrace.
I don't know how many times I have to say this. He's a tennis player. He's not a model. His job is not to, he doesn't, I suspect, model clothing for a living. He's not paid to be anything other than a bloke who can get hold of a stick with some string on it and hit a ball over some more string. That's his job. Ideally, in making it land in a particular square. That's what he does for a living. It's not exactly. And all he's got to do is do that more often than the bloke on the other side. And if he does that, he's the winner.
Can I? Sorry about this, Al. I've had a few things I want to speak about. Can I just have a brief word about Manchester City?
It didn't have to be brief, but go on.
Yeah, very brief. What I'm quite disgusted with is the reaction of the fans. I mean, I'm a Manchester United fan, and this isn't any way sort of biased, but I just feel that it's very fickle. The problems they've had the last couple of years. I mean, Sven was the best manager they've had for a long time. And obviously, because of that idiot, Sinawatra or Sinatra, obviously, he sacked him. Then they've got, obviously, Mark Hughes, United legend. But the way the City fans are, they're so fickle. At the end of the day, this guy could walk out tomorrow and take all his money, like Abramovich could do with Chelsea. And they're going to be left. It's all right. I'm laughing.
All those Americans that own your bunch of cars.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you're open to that sort of thing. But I mean, I think with United, we've earned our money. City haven't, and at the end of the day, saying to the biggest club in the world is absolutely ridiculous, because United have earned their money off the success, and then obviously these clowns, Americans, have come in and sort of, mortgaged themselves against the club, but we're always going to be there as a brand. And in fact, Robinho, they're actually saying up until last year when Alano come to City, they didn't even know who Manchester City were, because everyone refers to United as Manchester. That's why the running joke was, he turned up at training and said, "Where's Rooney and Giggsy? Where's the trophy cabinet?" But that's another story. But
you do realise I'm dozing off during this, don't you?
Oh, sorry. And all it was really is obviously this guy. He's a bit of a wannabe, like a Big Brother reject. You know the way he is, because he's there with pictures of Pamela.
Which one are we up to now?
The City one.
The City one, right?
He's basically there, pictures of Pamela Anderson. He's with all these.
Well, there's nothing wrong with pictures of Pamela Anderson, but never mind. Rashid, it's been an absolute joy. No, it has.
Mornings sound better with Eamon O'Neill and Diane Oxbury.
Eamon and Diane.
There's a lady here called Michelle Kelly of Blakely. She failed her driving test because she splashed a pedestrian. She should have stopped and exchanged details with the soggy bystander.
Eamon and Diane and you.
All these people now that are asking for donations of organs, until it hit them in the family, were they on the register? Till it actually comes home to you, people just aren't concerned.
The station with Eamon and Diane for breakfast.
Oh, that's so very funny.
Yeah, hilarious.
Back tomorrow morning from 6 at BBC Radio Manchester.
I don't know whether Eamon is on the organ donor list, but I know his piano accordion's down to be given away when he goes. Oh dear. No, it was terrible, wasn't it? Amir Khan in talks with Hollywood producers about the sequel to Gone in 60 Seconds. Thank you very much for that. Good morning, Alan. It's a fact that a pound of beef requires 9 times as much resource as a pound of vegetarian protein. If we went vegetarian, it could possibly reduce the amount of starvation in the world. I did say possibly. Mankind would probably screw up in some other way. That's David in Crumpsall, thank you. In the 80s, Wigan Athletic, in financial dire straits, drew Liverpool in the Cup. A 2-leg match that could save the club. Wigan Council refused permission to play the game at Springfield Park, Wigan's old ground, so they asked if the game could be played at Central Park, just because a small football team have decided to set up in the backyard of the world's biggest rugby club has nothing to do with us. This created the bad feeling between the fans of both clubs. 8th of September 2008, revenge tastes so sweet, says Mark in Wigan. Oh dear. How awfully harsh. Revenge tastes sweet. What a very ungiving sensation. And Terry says, did I hear you right? You want rugby players to entertain you. So why do you support Warrington? Well, of course, Terry, I might want them to entertain me. It doesn't necessarily mean that they do. Not dissimilar to the sensation of watching Amir Khan attempting to entertain me at, I'm told, £900 an hour. On Saturday. £900 an hour, because £15 for 54 seconds apparently works out at £900 an hour. And that's what it cost me on Sky. No wonder that Murdoch's rich.
She's cooked one meal in the last 15 years and now she's got all giddy.
I've even found a secret garden full of herbs and veg.
Find out where it is.
Eamon and Diane.
Tomorrow from 6.
0161228 2255, Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and the text number is 07786 206 951, and it's not essential or even desirable that you speak of sport.
95.1 FM,
DAB Digital Radio,
and the World Wide Web. This is Manchester. BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, markets rise as the US government nationalises 2 huge mortgage firms. And a professional footballer is due to stand trial following a motorway crash that killed 2 boys from Trafford.
And Wigan are in talks over the venue for Friday's playoff with Bradford.
It's a bright and cloudy day with scattered showers and temperatures peaking at a high of 18 Celsius.
In Manchester, Peter Street is closed on the westbound side that's heading towards Deansgate and away from the Midland Hotel. It's all because of roadworks and the Snake Pass resurfacing going on the Sheffield side of the Snake Inn, and that's following a landslide which happened in January.
Good afternoon, I'm Mark Edwardson. Trading on the London Stock Exchange was halted earlier today because of a technical glitch. The suspension came when some clients experienced difficulty accessing market data. But during the limited morning's trading in London, there was a sharp rise in the value of shares, as there had been around the world in response to the US government's bailout of its mortgage companies, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Jim O'Neill, the head of global economic research at the investment bank Goldman Sachs, says the US government has made the right decision.
It's a very bold and necessary move, and I think whilst many people worry about the fact the government's taking on potentially large obligations, it's a very sensible thing to have done. If these guys would have been forced to behave as truly private entities and cut back the lending, you could have had a further contraction of 2 to 3% of US GDP. That risk has gone.
Meanwhile, the Cheshire and Derbyshire building societies are to be taken over by the Nationwide. The deal will protect customers from the effects of the global credit crunch. The Cheshire's headquarters are in Macclesfield and they employ more than 800 staff across the country. Mike Hanson, the chief executive of another of our local building societies, the Vernon, which is based in Stockport, explains what's happening.
Both the Cheshire and the Derbyshire tried to change direction strategically a few years ago. The Derbyshire in particular went into subprime lending through a subsidiary called Salt, and they particularly went out through mortgage brokers. So they've had a belly full of that, and that's been known for a while, and the FSA's been looking closely. The Cheshire tried to move away from their branch routes and do strategic things, which didn't really work, and they've been struggling to rectify that. But unfortunately for them, what really hit them a few years ago was a very large commercial property loan, which hit them with about an 11 million write-off.
The professional footballer Luke McCormick will appear in court today, accused of causing the deaths of 2 young boys from Trafford by driving dangerously. This from Matt Trewern.
The former Plymouth Argyle goalkeeper Luke McCormick will appear at Stoke-on-Trent Crown Court this afternoon. The 25-year-old is accused of causing the deaths of 10-year-old Aaron Peake and his 8-year-old brother Ben on the M6 in Staffordshire. He's also charged with driving with excess alcohol. The boys from Partington were killed in June as they made their way to Silverstone racetrack for a day out. The boys' father, Phil Peake, was left seriously injured after breaking his neck and back in the accident.
The government's rejected demands for strict limits on the number of workers from outside what's called the European Economic Area allowed to settle in Britain. The Immigration Minister, Liam Burns, said a new points system based on skills and labour shortages was a better policy. He was responding to an all-party report which called for balanced migration and 4-year limits for foreign workers. People living in sheltered accommodation are being warned to ensure they don't allow strangers to follow them into the building. The warning comes just days after an 81-year-old man was threatened in his own home for just £10. Robbers broke into the man's flat after gaining access to Somervale House Tower Block on Manchester Street on Friday night. Detective Constable Mike Haymans from Oldham CID.
Somervale House, it's got quite a good concierge, which is obviously people that man it 24/7. Access to the building is gained using a magnetic fob. However, these people have also been waiting and they've tailgated into the premises, i.e. they've followed 3 residents into the flat block. That's how they've gained their access.
And a man's been arrested after sneaking onto an empty train at Preston Station this morning and cooking himself breakfast in the buffet carriage. The train was being cleaned at the station and was due to be used on the Lancaster to London route later on. The man was questioned by British Transport Police and charged with theft.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Well, we're expecting an announcement from Wigan Warriors any time now regarding the venue for Friday's Super League playoff against Bradford. The JJB is, of course, unavailable due to Wigan Athletics' game with Sunderland. Warriors are in talks over using the Stobart Stadium in Widnes or Warrington's Halliwell Jones instead. The Rugby Football League say they can't switch the date of the game due to the competition integrity issues. Manchester United defender Rio Ferdinand is having a fitness test today ahead of England's World Cup qualifier with Croatia on Wednesday. Ferdinand has a neck problem. Meanwhile, Liverpool midfielder Steven Gerrard will miss Saturday's game with United at Anfield. Gerrard is still recovering from groin surgery. West Ham will interview former Danish international Michael Laudrup today about their vacant managerial position. At the Paralympics in Beijing, Salford's Barney Storey and partner Anthony Capp won Great Britain's 5th gold medal at the Games in the 1 kilometre time trial. That was with a new world record in the cycling. Andy Murray's date with Destiny is due to start at 10 o'clock tonight. Murray's bidding to become the first Briton for 72 years to win a Grand Slam when he faces Roger Federer in the final of the US Open in New York. And in Speedway, Bellevue Aces take on Wolverhampton at home in the Elite League this evening.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Eno Erator.
Well, it's a bright and cloudy day, and whilst there's a chance of some sunny spells, they are going to be far and few between, I'm afraid, because you will also get some scattered showers thrown in the mix this afternoon, with some light winds blowing through and temperatures peaking at a high of 18 Celsius.
Lunchtimes belong to Beswick.
Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hey, up, you all right? Belting. 01612282255. Derek in Lee. Hamilton was forced off the track onto a runoff area by Raikkonen. He rejoined, allowed Raikkonen to overtake, then repassed him. A perfectly legitimate manoeuvre. Anyway, I'm not bothered. The bookies paid me out on a Hamilton win, and they're not getting their money back. That's Derek in Lee. When you say it's legitimate, but those who are in charge appear to disagree with you. And frankly, now that you've got your money, you ought not to give a toss. Peter in Oldham, hiya.
Hiya, mate.
What have you got?
Well, just about the manoeuvre and everything, and the overtaking.
Oh, that. Oh, you're one of them as well.
Yeah.
Right, then.
Yeah. I just think that he did allow him to pass. So consequently, it cancelled out the fact that the manoeuvre was made. He delayed his pass, but he did gain advantage. They then take the race off him, but the actual person he overtook, illegally or whatever, Raikkonen, crashed out anyway, so he couldn't have won the race because he already crashed. So the person who came second, who wasn't involved in the altercation, then gets the race, and the person who came third comes in front of Hamilton. I just think that Ferrari generally, as a motor racing group within the sport, seem to have an awful lot of influence. And I think that there are some times, I mean, for instance, there was an occasion in a Grand Prix a few weeks ago when they sent somebody out into the pit lane and no action was taken. It just appears to me, generally, that Ferrari's influence on motor racing is greater than other people, and their drivers seem to have an advantage due to that fact.
But isn't that the old, unless you happen to be of that club, the old Manchester United argument? They all say, oh, well, Manchester United always get the benefit of the doubt and all of that. I mean, there's an element of sour grapes surely here. Lewis Hamilton committed a wrong move. You say that the person who suffered most from that move crashed out of the race anyway. If I was a silly bloke, I'd say, well, maybe it was because he was so angry that he lost his concentration and crashed. Frankly, that's immaterial. What Lewis Hamilton did was break the rules, and the rules do have sufficient fluidity for judgment to be made, and the judgment was made that he broke the rules, and that he ought to suffer further than he'd suffered already, the self-inflicted injury, if you like, of letting a rival pass. They decided, those who operate the system decided, that frankly that wasn't a big enough punishment, and they removed, I think it was 25 points from his tally, thus making him 5th instead of 1st.
Well, no, 25 seconds, that's making...
I'm sorry, 25 seconds. 25 points would finish him completely, wouldn't it? I mean 25 seconds, thus his time then sends him way back to 5th place, doesn't it? All right, well, there you are. But the point, we're still with, because it's not my sport by any means, but we're still with this idea that there are rules, and frankly, I could probably win if they allowed me enough shortcuts.
Yeah, but the shortcut didn't actually affect the winner of the race. The winner of the race...
Well, it's not about whether it affected the winner of the race. It's about whether Lewis Hamilton took an advantage to which he was not entitled.
But he then gave the advantage back.
Well, in your view, but there is a view of greater importance than yours, and those are the stewards who operate the sport. And the stewards, rather like the referees and all of that, they decided that the punishment he'd already inflicted upon himself was not sufficient.
Right, so the fact that he was second, became first, and allowed someone to go past him after his wrong manoeuvre, wasn't that giving the advantage back anyway?
Well, it was, but not to a sufficient degree, according to those who rule the game.
OK. Nice to speak to you.
And you, mate. And you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
A number of the newspapers this morning. I feel sure if Lewis Hamilton was a German, that there'd be an awful lot of newspapers in the United Kingdom saying about time they got the kraut git. I'm just saying that Lewis Hamilton, Andy Hamilton's a comedian, much funnier. And Lewis Hamilton cheated. He didn't do it on purpose, he's not a cheat, but what he did was against the rules. And if you break the rules, you suffer. Isn't that what sport's about? Why can't Wigan play at the Reebok, says Peter in Bolton. I've no idea, and frankly, who cares? Perhaps it goes against the grain. I don't think the chairman of Bolton, that nice Mr. Gartside, and that nice chap who's the chairman of Wigan, I don't think they get on that well. Do you know what I mean? I don't think they're close. In fact, I suspect they'd rather play on Orford Park than go to Reebok. But what do I know? Maureen in Wigan. Hiya, Maureen.
Hello, good morning. Oh, good afternoon.
Either of those? Yeah.
I've been that long on the phone this morning. I think I've uncovered another scam.
Oh, excellent.
On internet.
Excellent.
Right.
You like scams.
Well, I don't.
Well, it depends whether you suffer from them, but go on.
Well, you know, I was trained on my computer that if there's a little gold lock on the thing in the corner, it's secure. OK, so that's what I looked for. I put my debit card number in to buy what it was I wanted to buy. And what this company has done is I'm being bombarded with parcels of stuff that I've not ordered, that I don't want, and to send them back, it cost me £5 a parcel to send them back.
Well, let me... First of all, the little lock, the little gold lock, I have no idea of the significance of that, but frankly wouldn't rely on it. So, you bought something off this organisation?
Yeah.
You paid them?
Yeah.
It was delivered?
Yeah.
You're happy with it?
Yeah.
Right. Now they're sending you stuff that you've not ordered.
Yeah.
Is it the same stuff?
Yeah.
No.
It's books. And it's not the stuff I ordered.
Right, okay,
it's other books.
That's fine. Yeah. Then what you need to do is... Now, it'll take you some time to get around to this, but what you need to do is nothing.
Well, what I've done is I've had my debit card cancelled and I've ordered a new one.
Oh, good Lord. Were they taking money off your card?
No, they haven't done yet, no.
So, well, that's fine.
I think,
All right, well, you've done that, so it won't happen. I suspect they weren't going to take money off you anyway, but what you have to do, what you are required by law to do, is nothing.
Right,
nothing.
OK.
And do you want to know something else?
Yeah.
All those books are yours now. You own them.
Oh, really?
Yes, they're called unsolicited goods. And if you receive goods that you have not ordered, now remember that bit of the phrase, have not ordered. If you receive goods that you've not ordered, they are yours. They're unsolicited and you're entitled to keep them. For peace of mind, and only for peace of mind, I suggest you do two things. One, write a letter to the firm via snail mail.
Yeah.
Keep a copy of it.
Right.
And tell them you are receiving these books every so often and you have not ordered them, you will not be returning them, and you will not be returning any others that are delivered to you because they are unsolicited goods. The other thing I want you to do is to send exactly that message to their customer services department via email. So send them an email saying, thanks for the books, I've not ordered them, you're not having them back. And send them a letter saying, thanks for the books, I've not ordered them, you're not having them back.
Well, I don't really want them.
Well, burn them then. Or keep them in pristine condition and give them away as Christmas presents.
Okay.
Let somebody else not want them, and then you can have them back next year.
Yeah, but I just thought I would, give it out.
Well,
and if anybody else is listening, not always to rely on that gold lock.
Well, OK. Well, if those books, if they're not to your taste, but you think they might be to somebody else's, then take them along to your local charity shop. Most of them sell books these days.
Okay.
And that way someone will get something out of it. But don't worry, you're not going to be required to pay for them. But do write those 2 letters for your own peace of mind.
I will.
All right, Maureen.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Can anybody explain that little lock to me? I do see it on sites from time to time. I never rely on it as making it a secure site. I know it's secure when you send your financial details, and even if it's not, that's what the bank's for. But, is there anything more about that than precisely that? 0161 228 2255 via text. Lofty says, face facts. Henman was nicey and won out. Murray may be arrogant, but he's done better than Henman. Well, those 2 facts are correct, and frankly, may not be unrelated. There are very, 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 very few non-arrogant winners. There are very, very few non-arrogant winners. The top is populated by people who believe they belong there. That is arrogance.
We've got to warn the Earth, Jones.
Yes, Montgomery. People must switch to digital TV before it's too late.
In one of 3 easy ways. Convert the TV themselves with a digital set-top box.
Or get satellite cable or broadband TV installed.
Or get a new TV with digital built-in.
If they don't, the consequences will be dire.
Well, for a start, they won't get to watch us dealing with Earth-saving situations in a calm yet authoritative manner.
Good point, Monty. Good point. Cheers.
Go to digitaluk.co.uk and get set for digital.
So there. Gordon, who, the way he's written this, appears to know a thing or two, says, Hamilton gained an advantage with the traction of the vehicle and the follow-through speed. Raikkonen could not keep up with his momentum. And then says Hamilton's inertia gave him a greater advantage. There are people on the planet, I'm sure, to whom that means something. Paul in Salford. Hiya, Paul.
All right, mate.
I'm very well.
Just reference the lady who failed the driving test for...
The splashy lady, yes.
Splashy lady. The examiner was correct in failing her. However, that being said, I think it also brings into question the ability of the examiner for letting the hazard develop in the first place without giving the lady any prompting, you know.
I don't think he's allowed to, is he?
Yes, even though she's under test conditions, she's still being supervised by...
That is correct, but I think the driving examiner, whilst he is required to intervene, if it is possible, because they don't always have dual controls and the like, to prevent an injury, I don't think he's required to intervene to prevent a breach of the regulations.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, Alan. But,
well, I'm just telling you what the rules are as I understand them. It's not where I'm coming from.
I'm presuming that the examiner is he's a qualified ADI. He certainly represents...
the examiner won't be an ADI. The examiner will be a qualified examiner.
Yeah.
Not an ADI, an approved driving instructor. He's not an instructor, he's an examiner.
Yeah. Well, I understand that side of it, but the point I'm trying to put across is that whoever the examiner was...
Yeah.
He's quite right to fail, because there was a prosecution about 4 years ago where somebody got fined 60 quid and 3 points on the licence.
I remember that. I remember being overjoyed at it. Go on.
Did you remember it? Yeah.
I do, yes.
But, OK, it's a puddle, but it could have caused a danger to another road user, not just because they'd been splashed, but they could have jumped out the way to avoid being splashed and probably got hit by a bus or whatever. Hazelbottom Road, it's probably unlikely because there's not many buses go down that way. However, that being said, I do feel that the examiner has let the hazard develop. He should have prompted, and then failed it.
That would be something. That's something because I think the offence here, and I'm only going on what I've read, but I think the offence is not the splashing. That's discourteous.
Yeah.
I think the offence is failing to stop and exchange details following what the examiner decided was an accident.
Yeah, that's perfectly right, because I was going to come to that point.
Okay, I'm sorry, go on, yes.
Well, no, sir, you're quite right to ramble on with that one, because it sort of linked me into the other part, and the other part is this. If she's involved in an RTA, which she was, yes, she should have stopped and exchanged details with the victim. However, seeing as she didn't, the examiner, who's a representative of the DSA, should have insisted that she stopped and exchanged details.
But does not a driving examiner benefit from a peculiar privilege in that, whilst he is an employee of the organisation and the government, he is also there as an observer, and in every possible sense and legal and safety sense should not intervene. So if physical injury is not in prospect, he should leave well alone, because he's there to examine what they do.
Yeah, there is that point, but, I think he should have prompted her to exchange details with the victim, especially if he got a £500 suit on, In any case, the person was probably drenched. I don't know, I didn't see it, but I think prompting should have taken place without allowing the hazard to develop. That's the first thing. And once it did develop, it brings into question his forward-thinking and anticipation skills. Albeit she's under test conditions, but she's still being supervised by law by him.
All right, mate. Good on you. Thank you very much. Paul says the driving examiner should have intervened. City's new owners are helping the congestion charge, it says here. David in Swinton asks, would you get charged for travelling by camel? Well, of course, the idea of the congestion charge is to limit the amount of airborne pollution. So apparently you would only pay to travel by camel if it farted. It's just gone 1:20 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Mark Edwardson.
Professional footballer Luke McCormick's expected to appear in court within the next hour, accused of causing the deaths of 2 young boys from Trafford by driving dangerously. The UK's biggest building society, the Nationwide's, merging with 2 smaller rivals, the Cheshire, which is based in Macclesfield, and the Derbyshire, who've both been making losses. And the government's rejected demands for strict limits on the number of workers from outside of the European Economic Area allowed to settle in Britain. Manchester's weather cloudy this afternoon, showers and sunny spells expected too, highs of 18 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
No accidents and no incidents affecting traffic at the moment. The areas to watch out for: Peter Street in the city centre, still closed to traffic between Mount Street and South Mill Street. It's been closed from the Midland Hotel heading in the direction of Deansgate, so you can't get down there at all. Also, some slow traffic earlier on the M60 has gone. We had some slow traffic around junctions 14 and 13 heading towards Wesley anti-clockwise. That's cleared. The M61 moving well in both directions, north and southbound. Same with the M66 to and from the M60, and no problems with the M56. Anything you spot, give me a call. You can do that on the usual number, 0161 244 4951. I'm on Merchant.
With more updates than the other guys.
2020 traffic.
Colin in Bolton. In response to Ted in Moston's interesting comment, 2 UK colonies that he did not mention are the Pitcairn Islands. Aren't they the ones down south, way past, almost to Antarctica? Aren't they the ones where the local dignitaries sleep with each other's children that I was referring to earlier? And also the Turks and Caicos Islands. And during the Commonwealth Games in Manchester, I interviewed the sports minister of the Turks and Caicos Islands, and it was one of the most pleasant interviews I've ever done from my point of view. I enjoyed it immensely. He was a really nice bloke. And he was just an ordinary bloke, but then, it's not the biggest place on earth, is it? The Turk and Caicos Islands. Currently facing that latest, is it Ike? And the latest of the hurricanes in that area, in the old West Indies. I think it is. Anyway, Turks and Caicos Islands about to face that, poor things. 0161228 2255. Frank in Didsbury. Hiya, Frank.
Hello, Alan. Good afternoon.
Andrew.
Alan, I only caught the very tail end of your conversation with a lady regarding the books.
Oh, yes.
And I'm almost certain I'm having an almost identical experience with the book company with regards to my daughter. And she ordered some books about 12 months ago, and they sent them to her, and she duly paid for them. But then, of course, they kept sending her more and more and more, which she didn't order. To cut a long story short, I have written 5 times to these people in the last 6 months, and I'm a very experienced business person, so this is not a difficult thing for me, and I didn't mince my words, and I sent them by recorded delivery. And in spite of my best efforts, and threatened them with legal action, trading standards, you name it, they just ignored every single letter and kept on sending more and more goods and more bills. And they then passed the whole matter over to a debt collection agency. Now, if they called to my house, they would seriously have upset my daughter, and if they'd gained access, they might well have distrained goods. And my daughter isn't equipped to handle those kind of people. I wrote to the debt collection agency, sent them copies of all the correspondence I'd received before, and thankfully haven't heard from them since, because obviously they're not going to take it up beyond that point. Now, these people have again sent another bill only last week. Now, it's like dealing with an octopus. They just totally, utterly ignore you. I'm not sure what you can do in the end to stop these people.
Well, you don't do anything. There's nothing you need to do.
Well, if they hand you to a debt collection agency and the debt collectors come to your house...
Well, first of all, the debt collecting agency has no right to enter your property.
No, they haven't got a right, but people who in their naivety allow them. And once they are in your property, and people even invite them because they're so naive.
All of those things are on the edge of correct. But the most important thing is when you receive the first letter from the debt collecting agency, you do precisely what you did. You write back and say, I owe you no money.
Correct.
And they will immediately back off because they get paid by commission.
Correct.
And they know they're not going to get anything.
Correct.
But the only way you could actually stop these things from happening on the individual basis is to take out a court order. Now, who the hell is going to spend that kind of money?
Exactly.
And even then it might not stop it, but if it doesn't stop, the court order can then require for the people who are sending it to go to prison. But who's going to do that? Nobody. So what you do is you keep the books, and when you get the bill, the first one, you do what you did and you write back and you say, not paying it, thank you, goodbye. And don't write again. I wouldn't write again, that's it. I've stated my case, I'm going no further, and if you want to take me to court, that's fine. The debt collecting agency will not come and knock at your door and attempt to gain access because they do not have the right to constrain goods. They have to have a court order in order to acquire the right to constrain goods. They can't do it without, and if they do, they're committing an offence.
I know that and you know that, but naive people like my daughter would give them goods.
No, just think, if they came to your house, if the debt collecting agency came to your house and said, you owe Allan Beswick Book Company 500 quid, I've got no money. OK, give us your telly. They have just broken their rules. The rules under which they are required to trade, and that would, if it got out, cost.
But Alan, can I just stop you there for a
let me finish.
No, please, Alan, you've made a point there that really needs to respond to. You've said and you presume that the person that answered the door says, I have no money. That person might not say that. My daughter wouldn't have said that because it wouldn't be true in her case. She would have said, I got money. She would have probably panicked. She would have probably given them money.
OK, let us carry on with the story because it's important for everybody else.
It is, yes.
If somebody knocks at your door and says, you owe such and such your agency money,
yes,
and you say, I have no money, and they say, give us your telly, and you do so, if you then report them, they run a very, very serious risk of losing their licence because they are constraining goods without the court's permission. And they can't legitimately do that. So we've got that out of the way. Now, to come back, yes, somebody might say, OK, here's the money. But that same somebody would not have written the letter that says, I owe you no money, I'm paying you no money.
They might, Alan, because when they're confronted with these professional people, they could panic and lose their nerve.
Well, I can't offer anything to
No, I
change
know.
that other
That's
than
the worry.
education. Well, yes,
That's the worry.
it is a constant worry, but there's nothing to change that but education, which is one of the reasons this programme exists, I suppose.
Exactly.
And the education is that you are not required to pay for or return unsolicited goods. And in fact, the mere fact that they've arrived at your address in your name, both of those things are crucial, at your address in your name, and you have not ordered them or they've not been ordered on your behalf, you now have title to them.
Another issue as well, they also intimidate and threaten people by saying this will affect your credit rating because we will notify credit rating organisations like Experian that we put you out for debt collection to professional debt collectors.
They do all of those things. And again, there is provision in the law for you to deal with that. But what the law can't do is say, we are going to stop this happening. The law can only arm the victim of it. And the victims are adequately armed.
Well, this is why I made this call to you, because your programme it does a wonderful service to people who are ill-equipped to deal with these kind of people.
All right, good on you, Frank.
They are pure vultures.
Well,
Could I just make one point, which is quite humorous?
All right.
You were talking earlier, before I had to switch off and got distracted, about the problems with animals producing gas and stuff.
Oh, yes.
What must the situation have been, say, go back 200 years, when there was literally millions of buffalo on the plains of America, and there was millions of animals in many parts of the world? Mustn't the emissions been infinitely higher then than they are now?
Well, I'm told, and I have nothing to go on, that whilst you're right in that the buffalo, the bison and all those other things have diminished in numbers, they've been replaced by many more cows.
Have they?
Yeah. There are a lot more bovine creatures on the planet now than there were then. It's just that they're not roaming free.
I just thought it was an interesting...
It is an interesting one, because a buffalo trump, that's got to be a big one, hasn't it? Have a good day, Frank.
Take care, mate. Bye-bye.
0161 228 2255. The quickest way to get rid of unwanted goods is to write on the label unsolicited goods and give it back to the post office. That might be the quickest, I'm sure, but frankly, it's not the most productive. The most productive is, with unsolicited goods, keep them. Keep them. If everybody on the planet, well, let's just confine ourselves to this land in which we inhabit. If everybody in this country kept all unsolicited goods and refused point blank to pay for them, that would eventually stop them, because the companies would go bankrupt and I'd laugh me willy off. Les in Cheadle-Hulme says the quickest way to get rid of it. I've just read that, you cretin. Alan says, well, I think, we all make them. David in Crumpsall says, Alan, instead of Lewis, you've named Neil and Andy Hamilton. All you need to do now is mention Diddy David and Lady Hamilton, and you've got a set. Cheers again. P.S. If the examiner intervenes either manually or verbally, the woman would still have failed. That is absolutely true. If the driving examiner has to intervene, then inevitably you fail the test. I don't know what the Dizzy Bint is whinging about, for crying out loud. She thinks she can splash people and get away with it. What he should have done was stop the car, take it outside and give it a slap round the head. Richard from St Helens, hello!
Good afternoon, Mr. Beswick.
Good afternoon, sir.
I was just listening today with great interest, like I do most days, and I just listened to the point when one of your callers made a few months ago about forward-thinking and intervening skills of a examiner and driving instructor.
Oh, yes, yes.
I just thought I'd tell you a little humorous story about the weekend with the downpour of rain that we have.
Yeah.
I live over in St Helens near Bold, and there was a massive flood of about 2.5 foot. Well, it's halfway up my thighs, actually, in my waders at the weekend.
Good Lord.
So I decided to take my new Land Rover Discovery and watch and wait and see how many people tried to drive through it. And you guessed it, they kept coming. And basically, it was quite amazing, because we had a driving instructor with a pupil that went straight to the flood, and about 50 yards into it, the car stopped. So we told him out, and I said to the young lad driving up, terrified, 17 years of age, I said, "You don't see the hazard?" He said, "Yes, I did." "Why didn't you stop?" He said it'd be okay. So that guy had no forward thinking and intervening skills, and he was only taking on the poor guy in a lesson. But furthermore, we had a motorcycle instructor come through an hour later with a pupil behind him. The instructor made it through. Pupil fell off motorcycle to his waist in water and pushed the motorcycle out. We had a police car go through. We had to tow out.
Fabulous.
We had a bus, a minibus style bus, 18-seater, that went through. Comfy bus company. They were sitting very comfortably halfway through. And then we had some cyclists try and go through, but they were just taking the mickey.
I hope you were getting a £5 at a time for dragging these beggars out.
No, in fact, it's quite funny because first of all, some people didn't even thank us.
Really?
So I thought, hang on, I'm taking up my time, and it was a bit of fun for us as well.
Yeah.
And so then I started to say £20 to people then, it go to breast cancer. Some people gladly paid, and we had a couple, I made the point here, BMW drivers that said, no, I'll call BMW Assist. I said, fine, no problem. Don't forget to tell them you're in 2.5 feet of water. So I'm sure they won't come out.
Because they will take that into account, won't they?
One lady that
mind you, if you're going to call yourself BMW Assist, you've got to be prepared to deal with cretins.
Exactly.
Haven't you?
One
You know.
lady in a 5 Series that we pulled out, she sat there and they said to me, do you mind if I take your telephone number? I said, yeah, what for? She went, a witness. I said, for what? I'm going to complain to the council to say there was no signs up. I thought, well, they might just give her a quick eye test.
Yeah.
And tell her to bugger off.
They may do. Well, I don't think they'll do the first bit, but I think the second bit's fairly safe.
It was just unbelievable.
The world's full of them, isn't it? The world is full of them.
One of the saddest parts was a breakdown guy came down with a great intention to take the bus out. Because the bus driver, that was it, the bus company wouldn't pay us. He said 20 quid, and he said, I'll ring my boss. He rang his boss, and his boss came back with a few expletives for us, you know. So he said, not a problem, we'll leave you sat there then.
You just stay there, that's fine, yes.
And then he came and said, could you give us a push? I said, we don't do pushing.
Yeah, we tow, we don't push. Land Rovers don't push. Land Rovers are not pushers, Land Rovers are pullers.
So they reversed their other little the van in to pull the bus out and burnt the clutch out.
Excellent,
so
excellent.
So they stayed there for 4 hours till 10:30 at night, and a breakdown truck came to reverse in for them. That reversed in a big 7-ton thing, and sadly, as he was going to pull out, his engine took in a gulp of air with a gallon of water at the same time and cut out.
Oh, fabulous.
So I thought, this is going from bad to worse. So we did actually tow the breakdown truck guy out with his wagon, and he got it fixed by a mechanic, but we just left the bus there.
Well, there you go. But one would hope that no more vehicles got stuck after the bus, because you would think if you see a bus and all you can see is just the top floor, you're not going to try and drive past, are you, really?
Alan, it was amazing. We were putting our towing kit onto vehicles, and people were trying to come past when they could see me in a pair of waders, and these guys opened up the doors. And
Well, do you know what?
It's mad.
It's a much more horrendous story, but equally true. And a pal of mine used to be a fireman in Warrington, and in those days, they used to have they probably still do, have a big chunk of the M6 to deal with. And it was one of those foggy nights, and cars were crashing in their dozens on the motorway, and the fire service were out there. They were cutting people free from the cars at the front, and every so often, the car they were cutting would judder as more vehicles hit the line at the back.
It's amazing.
Extraordinary.
It's just one of the funniest parts of the weekend was a young girl, she must have been in her early 20s. We drove through in the Land Rover, and obviously we can raise our suspension, etc., and all that stuff, and we're going through, and I looked at my mirror and I thought, she can't be real. In an old S-Reg Micra, I thought, she can't be for real. And she kept coming up, and she stopped, and I reversed back. I said, are you mad? And her answer was, well, I saw you going through. as I looked down, 10 foot down to her, I thought, but it must be me.
It's 25-year-old girl. Did you get her phone number? Because if you did, can you give it Ivan Lewis, the MP? Good on you, Richard. Have a good day. Cheers, mate. 0161 228 2255. No, I never said that last thing, whatever you say. No, well, dear Alan, I've only just returned from Southport, and I've just picked up on the latest Ivan Lewis matter. What, did it not reach Southport? This is a man who, while he preached morality for years, was having an affair which he kept hidden from both the press and his wife for as long as he could. Well, you would. All the while appearing in the press and at functions playing at happy families. His latest shenanigans do not surprise me in the least. There's something very much of the night about this man. This is also the same man who voted to keep the John Lewis list with its £1,000 beds, £700 television sets and all the rest of it, plus accepted the 19% pay rise while pensioners in Ratcliffe had to choose between eating and eating. When this man came to my house canvassing some time ago, I told him very clearly that I thought what I thought of him and told him never to knock on my door again. I've never broken my marriage vows or the oath of loyalty I took to the Crown. In my view, anybody that can lie and deceive the person person they love is capable of any lie or deceit to anyone. Thank you, Sean. 0161 228 2255 if you've something to say. Manchester will gladly hear it. Alan, says Dave in Culture, Formula One is fixed. That Max Mosley should be whipped if Lewis is not reinstated as winner of the Belgian Grand Prix. Oh, come on, it's the only thing of any interest that's ever happened in Belgium. Well, I suppose when Hitler moved in, that concentrated the mind a bit, but otherwise it's a pretty tedious place. And I don't understand the name that this claims to be from, but no matter, I can't pronounce it. But, Alan, the FIA, the Formula Thingy One thingamajig that nobody cares about, rules state that the use of a runoff area to shortcut a turn on the racetrack is deemed unpunishable, providing the perpetrator does not gain. Well, of course, it depends how you interpret that, doesn't it? Because Hamilton did gain. Now, I know that he then went on to forfeit voluntarily that gain, but if the rule is that you do not gain, he did gain, so he broke the rule. You follow me, I hope. Just because you gave the gain back doesn't mean you didn't acquire the gain in the first place, and it's the acquisition of the gain that appears to be the rule. Just reading from what you have said. I don't actually know the rules, but I know more about them than I care. It's 20 to 2 on BBC Radio Manchester. Rebecca Crabtree's got the headlines.
Professional footballer Luke McCormick is expected to appear in court within the next hour, accused of causing the deaths of 2 young boys from Trafford by driving dangerously. The UK's biggest building society, the Nationwide, is merging with 2 small rivals, the Derbyshire and the Cheshire, who have both been making losses. And the government has rejected demands for strict limits on the number of workers from outside the European Economic Area allowed to settle in Britain. Manchester's weather cloudy this afternoon with showers and sunny spells expected. The high 18 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Good news, no accidents, no incidents affecting traffic, and the motorway network seems to be pretty clear looking at the cameras anyway. The M61, 66, 56 and the M60 all moving well. The A34, Peter Street in Manchester, closed to traffic. If you're heading towards Deansgate, it's going to affect you from that section there near to the Midland Hotel. And the M67, the eastbound side, Junction 3 at Hyde. Roadworks mean that the exit Slip Road has had to be closed. It's like that during the daytime from 8 in the morning till 6 at night. It's going to be like that until the 14th of September. And in the High Peak area, the Snake Pass, just need to let you know that the road is closed. It's on the Sheffield side of the Snake Inn, but it's closed in both directions, and it's all following a landslide which happened in January. The road is going to be reopened eventually with temporary lights, but what's happening at the moment is resurfacing work is currently taking place. Anything else, you can give me a call. It's 0161 244 4951. I'm Mona Merchant.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Joanne Smith.
Good afternoon. Well, Wigan Warriors are expected to make an announcement any time now regarding the venue for Friday's Super League playoff against Bradford. The JJB is unavailable due to Wigan Athletics' game with Sunderland, with the Stobart Stadium in Widnes or Warrington's Halliwell Jones now being considered. Well, the Rugby Football League say they can't switch the date of the game due to competition integrity issues. Well, BBC Radio Manchester's Trevor Hunt thinks to even get into such a situation shows a lack of confidence from the club.
They should have been talking about this a good few weeks ago, and to some degree, it almost smacks a little bit that the club have resigned themselves to actually a trip to Catalan or to Warrington and never even thought of the prospect of a possible home tie. They'll feel now they've given away the home advantage, everything they work for, it'll be a neutral venue, and that in itself will give Bradford some incentive for victory.
Meanwhile, St Helens England forward James Graham has been named the Rugby League Writers Association's Player of the Year for 2008. Manchester United defender Rio Ferdinand is expected to travel to Croatia and also have a fitness test today ahead of England's World Cup qualifier with Croatia on Wednesday. Ferdinand has had a neck problem. After completing his long-awaited transfer to Manchester United last week, Dimitar Berbatov says he never even considered joining Manchester City. The Bulgarian striker is expected to make his debut against Liverpool on Saturday, and he's looking forward to working with his new manager.
I'm very impressed with Sir Alex, and I'm looking forward to working with him, and looking forward to speak with him again and to see what he's gonna ask from me in the games, and I hope that I can do a good job for him.
Meanwhile, Liverpool midfielder Steven Gerrard will miss Saturday's game with United at Anfield. Gerrard is still recovering from groin surgery. West Ham will interview former Danish international Michael Laudrup today about their vacant managerial position. Oldham's Ruben Hazel believes being promoted is a realistic aim for the club. That's after an unbeaten start to the season. The Latics are top of League One after 5 games.
If we stay fit and we get a bit of luck, you never know, we can go all the way. I think we've got the players here. We've got a good blend of experience and youth, and if we stick together and play as we know we can, I don't see why we can't stay near the top and get promotion this season.
Andy Murray is in tonight's final of the US Open tennis after a spectacular 4-sets win over world number 1 Rafael Nadal. He could become the first Briton to win a Grand Slam title since Fred Perry in 1936. This is how the Brit number 1 has been preparing.
Been playing Scrabble in my spare time, and just trying to relax, and I'm sure I'll get the chance to see it all at the end of the tournament, but just got to try and stay focused. I got one more match to try and win, and that was all I wanted to do at the start of the tournament.
McLaren will appeal against the punishment that stripped Lewis Hamilton of his Belgian Grand Prix victory. Stewards hit Hamilton with a 25-second penalty, demoting him to 3rd for cutting a chicane as he contested the lead with Ferrari's Kimi Raikkonen. McLaren have 7 days to decide whether to go ahead with the appeal. At the Paralympics in Beijing, Salford's Barney Story and partner Anthony Cape won Great Britain's 5th gold medal at the Games, breaking the world record in cycling's 1-kilometre time trial. While 13-year-old Eleanor Simmons has become Britain's youngest ever Paralympic gold medalist. She won the 100 metres freestyle final. And in Speedway, Bellevue Aces, who are desperately trying to avoid the relegation playoffs, they take on Wolverhampton at home in the Elite League this evening.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
We'll have coverage of the Super League playoffs this weekend. Wigan's match, where will they be playing? We'll find out here on BBC Radio Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. How are you? Excellent. 0161 228 2255, just after 1:45. Steve in Widnes, hi.
All right, Matt.
Not bad.
Quick question. Well, a couple of ones. That Formula 1 isn't a sport. It's just somebody what mechanics got. You should get best mechanics bloody prize.
Well, they do.
I know. Well, that's all. That's all it's about, isn't it? It's all it is. It's 200 mile an hour advertising.
Well,
that's all it is.
There's some truth in that, yeah.
I come on. I was watching. I was flicking channels the other night, ready for boxing, and I turned over and there was Paralympics.
Oh yeah.
And they were interviewing a girl, and she'd been on a tandem, cycle racing.
Yeah.
And she was visually impaired.
Yeah.
And she was sat up back, obviously sat up back. And they interviewed the visually impaired girl, but they didn't interview the woman who was sat up front. Now, the young girl who answered the phone before, she was telling me there's different criteria. I've never been interested in that today, but she's telling me there's different criteria of visually impairment. But surely it all depends who sat up front.
Well, it certainly does in terms of getting where you're going.
Yeah, if you've got, like, say, I don't know what new one, but say Chris Boardman. He's the only cyclist I know. So yeah, you got Chris Boardman sat up front, and visually impaired lad sat up back, as opposed to you sat up front and me sat up back at the other tandem. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
To me, the best, the one they should have been interviewing, as well as the visually impaired girl, was the one sat up front doing artwork.
Well, interview whoever you like in the end. Let's talk about the Paralympic Games, and frankly, I'm not a fan.
No, I'm not, Alan. I think, and I don't like saying it, but I think they make games up just for the sake of playing games.
Well, there's some truth in that. The only one that I've seen, now, you know, there are lots of sports that take place that I've not seen, but the only one I've seen that I think is in any way a level, I hate this phrase, but a level playing field sport is wheelchair basketball. They're all in wheelchairs. They get their own fitness or what have you.
Yeah,
and the same with the wheelchair racing and all of that, because they're all equal. But when they start giving what you might call criteria points, you've got one leg,
well, that's what I
and half a leg, or one leg and a third of a leg, and all that. I find the thing so convoluted arithmetically that it's...
Well,
I don't think it's credible.
That's what I was saying to the young girl, and she was trying to say, well, yeah, somebody's more disabled than somebody else, and they get more points for being more disabled.
That's right. If you'll pardon the expression, it's a handicap system, and so the person with one leg below the knee has got fewer advantage points, if you like, than the person with one leg and the other one removed above the knee. Yeah. So they're given different points to begin with, and I find the whole thing...
So one's in front of the other before they even start. But the thing was, I couldn't understand. Well, hang on, I turned it over and I said, she's done well. But I thought, well, why are you not interviewing the girl sat up front at bike who was doing all the graft?
Well, the one at the front may well have been freewheeling and just pointing it, steering it.
Well, I don't think she was, but she looked like she was working hard to me.
I find them, and I know it's not. I know it's not very politically correct to say so, but I find an awful lot of the Paralympic Games utterly patronising and frankly pointless. You know.
Well, I was saying to my mate yesterday. I said to him, I said, I think we only have these Paralympics because they spent so much on an Olympic Village and all these tracks. They're not going to use it for... Hang on, we'll use it for a fortnight, and what are we going to do with it then? Oh,
well, no, it's a bit more cynical than even that. The Paralympics... Well, indeed, but as I say, it's more cynical than that. The Paralympics came out because everybody knows that the International Olympic Committee is guilty of some rather dubious decisions, and in the past has been a bunch of crooks, frankly. And in order to garner a little bit of respectability, they introduced this thing where they can pat cripples on the head, which they call the Paralympic Games. But that's what it was about politically. Now, it's not like that...
Me thinks like that, Alan.
Pardon?
I said I'm glad there's not only me thinks like that.
No, there's not only you thinks like that.
Oh, I'm all right then.
Yeah, well, agreeing with me, Steve, doesn't count as being all right, frankly. I think it calls you into rather more suspicion. Colin in Warrington. Hiya, Colin.
Hiya, Alan. Orford lad to an Orford lad.
Oh, dear. Hang on, I'm just checking I've still got my watch. All right, still here, go on.
I'll tell you ages who actually. I was born in Cakesawn Road.
Was you?
Yeah. In one of the prefabs.
Hey!
Yeah, hey. We also did have a Nissan Huts when we moved in. So, you know, and that one wasn't underground either. And he was on about the air raid shelters the other week.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What it was is this thing about the driving test this morning, and one lad came on and said something about, you know, the instructor has no right to use the dual controls, and if he did, he would fail the person. Well, I know I took my driving test like 40 years ago, 67, but the actual the examiner had actually used the dual controls twice on me. Once to avert a serious accident in Gorsey Lane, where I was just about to make a right turn and some cretin came through on the outside. And the other one was in U Street where some kids were playing. I did slow down to let them go across the road, but he actually stopped the car and said, let them move out of the road completely first, but he still passed me.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I was 19 years of age and he passed me, and I was thrilled to bits, to be honest. But you know, and the first time he actually did it, we'd only just left the station on Manchester Road where
I remember it in all them huts.
Yeah, them huts. Yeah, that's right.
Opposite the cemetery.
Yeah, we were only about 5 minutes into the test when he first did it, and I thought all the way round, I thought, bloody hell, I failed here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in the end, he passed me. I couldn't believe it.
I bet you couldn't, no.
So,
if we find him, we'll get him to rescind it.
Yeah.
I don't think he should have done. Good on you, Colin. Cheers, mate. Ta-ra now. We're going to talk to Sydney in a moment.
Mornings sound better with Eamon O'Neill and Diane Oxbury.
Eamon and Diane.
There's a lady here called Michelle Kelly of Blakely. She failed her driving test because she splashed a pedestrian. She should have stopped and exchanged details with the soggy bystander.
Eamon and Diane and you.
All these people now that are asking for donations of organs, until it hit them in the family, were they on the register? You know, till it actually comes home to you, People just aren't concerned.
The station with Eamon and Diane for breakfast.
Oh, that's so very funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Back tomorrow morning from 6 at BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. Marion in Salford says, last Friday when it was raining all day, I got off the bus at Kersal Road and got absolutely soaked by an idiot splashing through a large puddle on the other side of the road. I was wearing my Mac and had an umbrella but forgot to wear my waterproof trousers. Silly me, she says. A friend said I should have got the registration number, but I couldn't. They were going too fast, and report it to the police as it's classed as an assault. I'm not sure if that's true, she says, but many moons ago, when I had driving lessons, the instructor said you should always slow down when driving through large puddles. I hope they run out of petrol in the middle of nowhere, says Marion in Salford, not the least bit bitter on the experience. 0161228 2255 if you want to join us today. Sydney in Salford. Hi, Sydney.
Good afternoon, Alan.
Hiya.
I wonder whether my experience regarding the receipt of these unsolicited goods.
Oh, go on.
Talking about.
Yeah.
Well, many years ago I had the same experience, and I got the advice of a solicitor friend of mine who told me there is a law which he called a law of demurrage.
Go on.
Now, I do not know whether that's a Latin phrase or anything like it, but what he advised me to do was to send a registered letter in those days to say that not only have I not asked for these goods, not only would that I was going to keep them in close custody and send them an invoice for me looking after their goods.
Yeah, that is precisely what you had to do in the past. However, since then, they've introduced the Unsolicited Goods Act, which has removed that need any longer. And now, the mere fact that they are unsolicited, but they address to a specific individual that is you, to a specific address that is yours, means that you can keep them.
So you mean what it means is that this new law is overtaken the law of demurrage then?
Well, it's not overtaken the law of demurrage. I can define demurrage for you if you wish. It's money payable by charterers to a ship owner or transporter for the delay to a vessel or truck due to her not being loaded or unloaded within an agreed period at a reasonable period for loading and discharge. So demurrage is not really what we're talking about, although in those days, some years ago, you could claim that the goods had been deposited with you and would from henceforth incur charges for delay in returning them to you, and that would be demurrage. But that's neither here nor there now, because all you have to do is nothing. If unsolicited goods you have not ordered, arrive at your home addressed to a specific person that is you, at a specific address that is yours, by dint of the fact that they've been delivered unordered, title of them passes to you. In other words, you own them.
And then what about the fact that this solicitor friend of mine told me that not only have I the right to keep them myself, but I also I can place a charge to this company for keeping them, unless they recover them within a certain length of time.
Yes, that was the law then.
Because it is not the law now.
It is not the law now. The law has changed. It changed, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. The Unsolicited Goods Act came in. Go on.
But does not this new law also apply to the recipients of these goods, charging the other party?
No, because you can't charge the other party for something that you own. And once they arrive at your premises, with the conditions I recited earlier, they become yours.
I see. So in that case, what they've done is take away the right of the person to make a charge. In other words...
No, what they've done is change it to the fact that you no longer have to have an understanding of a fairly complicated legal process, but a very simple one where you simply say, the goods are here, I don't want them, put them in the bin. The goods are here, I do want them, I'll have them. And the value of those goods now passes to you. whether you dispose of them in a second-hand shop, whether you auction them off, whether you keep them for your own use, the value of those goods passes to you.
What I received from this company was to in response to my registered letter to say that very good, you're able to keep them, etc., so forth and so on. And I had to say to them, in that case, I will not charge you for keeping them. And I can.
Well, Sidney, all of that has now been bypassed by the new legislation.
Alan, but what I was going to say is, I got a number of books which have filled half of a bookcase.
Excellent.
And subsequently...
Sydney, I've got to go. The programme's over. I've got to go. I was trying to rush you, but thank you very much indeed. We learned today that the United States government spent £100 billion on Fanny. Now, that's dear. See you tomorrow.